Welcome to the continued podcast adventures of Superhero Speak.
But I think many of the people that love this character and that love superheroes in general have used these stories as inspiration to say, you know what, I'm going to do something good in the world. I'm going to make a difference like my hero when I was a kid.
That is my fondest memory of it, because when you're doing comic books, you want them to affect people, right? You want people to care. You want to strike emotions. And I knew that Clone Saga was striking a lot of emotions.
Can you imagine Pulp Fiction starring Goofy and Mickey Mouse?
I can totally imagine that.
I'm sure somebody's written that one
quarter
too.
pounder with cheese and France, Mickey? What? Boy, ale with cheese. Yeah. I can totally.
See?
I would watch the hell out of that movie.
Yes, I gladly sacrifice that my progeny to you, almighty Marvel beast.
But Neil Adams is somewhere going, it's my time.
How do you measure success?
Hey everyone, you're listening to Superhero Speak, or better known as the John O'Grady Intervention. And I'm your host, Dave.
And John.
I'm the Executioner. I'm JD.
And joining us for this very special episode, we have the host of the D Squared podcast, Donald. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. So I guess I'm going to be the bailiff. Hopefully, maybe I can protect John a little bit.
I was hoping defense, yes.
But it's I think I may be doing a little executioning myself. I don't know. We'll see.
So we are here to talk about a movie that came out this week, and
Cats, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, it's a movie everyone's been waiting for a long time. It's
so big that after we do our normal episode for last week, and we normally take the rest of the year off, we're doing a very special episode for this.
Yes. So, what did everyone think? Oh, wait. Okay.
Cats. Yes, cats. Well, I thought the part where Cthulhu joined the cast was pretty interesting. All hail Ryla.
I was a big fan of John Wick coming in and executing Idris Elba's character. I didn't see that coming.
Was that before or after he got snapped out of existence by a spider?
It was before that, but after Aquaman came in riding a horse.
Oh.
Wait, I'm confused. We're not talking about Mulan, the Mulan trailer?
Okay, real talk. That trailer looked awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought that looked great.
They're finally doing a retread of a movie, but it's not a retread. It's actually got a new storyline.
Are they going to have a talking dragon in that thing, for real?
No, I think Phoenix is going to be her thing, because nobody likes the talking dragon.
I'm pretty fired up about that, actually.
It does look good, and of course we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about Top Gun, Maverick. Let's go.
Yes.
No, okay.
Yes.
So I will say,
of all
the Disney remakes, Mulan is the first one. When I saw the trailer, I'm like, I want to go see that in the theater.
Exactly.
Now, we are here to talk about, of course, the Rise of Skywalker. We're not going to do any of our preamble stuff. There's no news this week. This is a special episode just to do this, because, again, we normally are off for the holidays, but John called me up last night or yesterday afternoon, a panic, saying we got to record something for this. So
now here's the thing. I've literally put my own self in peril with this. I thought as reviewers we were coming at this as we all have different opinions of it, and we're interested in finding out what each other's opinion is and basically discussing stuff about it. Whereas you two seem to desperately want to, drag me in the mud for having any doubts about this movie at all.
Hasn't that been the last 2 years of our show? When it comes up?
Yeah, I know, right? That's just, I got the short-term memory of a goldfish, so.
Rest assured.
Okay.
Yeah, rest assured, John, I again can understand where you're coming from. I am saddened that we live in a world that has hurt you so much that you would not be able to enjoy this movie. Please understand I'm coming.
So
I don't think it's perfect, so I'm certain you're going to have points.
Yeah.
So before we get into our discussion, John, JD, and myself said last week we all did this. We stopped after we saw the movie and recorded our initial reactions. So this is uninfluenced by things online. This is uninfluenced by each other. And I'm just going to play them all right now in a row. And be warned, there are spoilers in the comments. So.
This is Superhero Speak post-film reaction. This is JD driving home from The Last Jedi. I'm not. I'm driving home from The Rise of Skywalker. How do I start this? I absolutely love this movie. It's everything I wanted a Star Wars movie to be. I have not been reading any of the reactions or reviews because I wanted to keep myself totally fresh going into this. But if a major complaint... I still have a cold. If a major complaint of a movie is that it goes too far out of its way to make people happy, what kind of a postmodernist society are we living in? We're making an audience happy, an audience that sat through 11 of these movies, a bad thing. I think after 9 movies in the original trilogy, or in this main Star Wars story, you're owed a little fan service. Sorry, I might not be completely on the ball. It's 12:30 at night here in Chicago. This is a great movie. The one thing I wish they had done differently is, like, right when the crawl comes, like, you see, like, oh, the Emperor Palpatine is back. And I was kind of like, oh, they didn't really even hide that at all. And he's back within the first minute of the movie. And you know it ahead of time. But then I thought to myself, I'm like, how much better would that moment have been when Emperor Palpatine makes his return if we didn't know? Like, if they didn't tell us at Comic-Con that he was the villain. If they didn't let anybody in on the information that this is where they were going. I really think we would have had a better moment. I don't know. I mean, like, maybe it would have come too far to left field for some people, but I think you would have gotten a more guttural reaction from the audience if we didn't know that Palpatine was coming back and we're left to a surprise. But that's all for naught. They they told everybody. And I think it works. Like, I think that they tied up every loose end that was presented in the previous 2 films. I like The Last Jedi. I thought it was a good movie, and I think that it's still a good movie, especially for where this one ends. And I think that it serves that Empire role where you end the film and everybody's like, oh shit, where do we go now? Which is good. And I think that what we learn about Rey, because everyone's like, oh, her parents are nobody. I talked to some friends who were like, oh, she should be somebody. And I got on board the idea of, like, not everybody has to be somebody, and that's okay. But I do think it works, spoilers, it works better if you know that she's Palpatine's granddaughter. Like, it worked. And now you get a real duality in the Force of the light side and the dark side struggling between the two. And I've been worried that they were going to try to redeem Ben Solo, and I didn't think it was going to work. But I think they pulled it off. Like, I really like this movie. Yes, is it a bit schmaltzy at the end? Absolutely. But I think it should have been. Like, we're talking Star Wars. We're not talking about Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Like, this is a movie that should have done all those things. It should have made its audience smile at the end. Like, it's Star Wars. That's what they're supposed to do. So I'm totally on board with this movie. I'm very curious to hear what one John O'Grady thinks of it, because he's been very negative on these first 2 movies. And I've liked them all, but truth be told, this is my favorite of this new trilogy, far and away. And I got to see it again. I'm coming off the movie high, so maybe I'll change my mind in a few days' time. But my initial reaction coming out of this movie is, this is great. I think Dave's going to love it. I'm not sure about John. I think John could really like this movie, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. As far as critiques go, it's tough right now because I need to see it again with a more critical eye. But like I said, I didn't like the opening crawl. I thought it just kind of threw too much at the audience and didn't let us learn as much. But it's kind of a nitpick. The movie does not stop to breathe. Like, it has just got this rhythm, this boom, 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 boom rhythm. Like, it does not slow down. It does not give its characters much of a chance to occupy space. It does not, but it's not supposed to do that. Again, we're at the end of a trilogy. This is really a time for the action to drive the story, and it works. It doesn't bother me. Yeah, I would have liked it to be a little slower in parts, but I don't think what they did was wrong. I liked the mystery appearance of one Carrie Russell. I picked up on her voice almost right away, and then when they reveal her eyes, I'm like, oh yeah, Carrie Russell. I've seen enough episodes of The Americans to recognize those. Yeah, she was really good in it. Like I said, I just enjoy it, man. The stuff with 3PO is great. They actually let him play a little bit more of a role in the movie. Sometimes 3PO is just there to be kind of the Greek chorus. Like, he actually plays kind of a vital role in this movie. I quite enjoyed it. I did like all the fan servicey stuff because it ties back into the overall story. My favorite of the fan servicey moments is when Rey gets the voices of the Jedi behind her, and you hear everybody. All of the previous Jedi are speaking to her. And I want to go to that movie again so I can try to identify the voices. I was spending too much time trying to figure out if that's what they were doing, and I think I actually kind of cheapened the moment a little bit for myself. So I want to do that one more time. My favorite moment of the film, in Star Wars, we get a lot of these Force ghosts, right, where the Force will create the spirit of a person and they'll have a conversation. With Adam Driver's Kylo Ren, Ben Solo character, we get a similar moment, but instead of it being a Force ghost apparition, it's him talking to his father, Han Solo, and it's not a ghost. It's literally Ben dealing with his emotions, because he's had a literal rebirth, and like the dark side has been purged from him, and now he's left to deal with his sins. And what I like about the movie is Ben Solo doesn't get away with his sins. Like, there is still hell to pay. He still did the deed. He still killed his father. And he's kind of responsible for the death of his mother. But he redeems himself, and then he dies. So, similar to Darth Vader, in his final action, he tries to repair the damages of his past. And I feel more for Ben Solo, even more than I felt for Darth Vader, because you get the story that he was duped the entire time, and that you feel for him because he got suckered into. It's like, how do I explain this? I knew a guy once who got sucked into a cult where they convinced him that he was the son of God, and then when reality hit him and people had to convince him that he wasn't the son of God, it was very hard for him to come down for that, and it took a lot of time of trying to adjust this guy back into society. This is a true story. I felt a lot of that with Ben Solo, is because now he has to live with the fact that he is responsible for the deaths of possibly thousands, on top of Luke Skywalker, on top of his father, on top of what becomes his mother. How do you deal with that once you become clear of conscience? And I think he kind of does in the way that people in the Star Wars universe do, is you fight bad guys. But I like the fact that I heard people say oh, you're going to see Jedi have powers that you didn't know they had before. It's the healing. Rey heals a Dune-esque sandworm, and then she heals Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, later from a mortal injury. And we have been introduced to that before. Episode 3, Palpatine says, "Not from a Jedi." But the thing is that neither of them are true, pure Jedis. Rey comes very easy to the dark side of the Force because she's a Palpatine, and Kylo Ren is a dime store Sith. The Knights of Ren, as they've been portrayed, they're not quite Siths, but they kind of want to be. So I think it worked that they used that little superpower to help move the story along. And in Kylo Ren's last act as a mortal, he uses that power to save Rey. So it's I think it worked because in the last action, like Darth Vader, in the last actions of an evil life, he saves the chosen one. So again, it's weird that I thought this, again, I'm kind of sporadic. I thought that this movie felt like Force Awakens feels a lot like New Hope. Last Jedi feels a lot like Empire Strikes Back. I didn't think this felt like Empire Strikes Back until the closing, not even the closing act, but literally the closing 25, 30 minutes. It really kind of aped on those tropes from Return of the Jedi. Effectively, mind you. I'm not complaining about that. I think it had to, and it worked. So again, yeah, like Darth Vader, Ben Solo redeems himself as much as he can, and sacrifices himself to push the next level on. And you get the idea of what the Skywalker means, because Rey tells someone her last name is Skywalker. And it's really, she in a way redeems her family name too, because That's like if your dad was named Hitler, well, you'd change your name. You know, you can't be walking around as David Hitler. So she's the same way. She's Rey Palpatine, technically, but she becomes Rey Skywalker because of her relationship with Luke and Leia. And it really worked. Like you don't get the hang. Like, I thought that when they called the last one The Last Jedi, and like this was the Rise of Skywalker, I really thought we were going to see the end of the Jedi. There's really nothing there that tells us this is the end. If anything, we're left in the same spot Luke was at the end of Return of the Jedi, in that we have a chance to once again forge a new path of Jedi. Now, what if Rey decides to do that, or if she decides to actually be the Last Jedi, is a question only Disney can answer. But as far as I go, I'm super happy with this movie. I need to see it 2 more times at least before I talk about it with Dave and John on the podcast. But my initial reaction is this was a great movie. I loved it. We do the cape thing on Superhero Speak. We're talking about movies. I always tend to make a joke out of it, but this time I'm straight up. This is a 4-star movie. Like, and it's a 4-star movie because it's everything a Star Wars movie should be. And if you're looking for greater depth and meaning in a Star Wars movie, I'm sorry, man, you're just looking in the wrong place. That's not what these movies are. This was exactly what it needed to be. And that's really all I've got on the subject.
All right. Well, I just got home from seeing Rise of Skywalker, and here are my initial thoughts. So we all wanted to record our unbiased opinions that we had as soon as we came out of the theater. And what can I say? I liked it. I did. I thought it was really good. It was well done. It was basically the only way JJ could have ended the saga after all of the backlash after The Last Jedi. But I don't know. I have to think about it more, is really what it comes down to. I think that my son and I went to see it, and he did say something that I agreed with, that the scenes with Leia didn't feel natural. Unfortunately, we all know Carrie Fisher passed away before they could film the movie, and they used old footage of her for the film, and yeah, there were definitely... She felt like it was a wooden performance, of course, because she wasn't saying lines for this movie, so she wasn't involved in this story. So, of course, it didn't come off well. It came off the way it did. But I understand why they did it. I don't disagree with them using it. It just... I wish it was better, a little better. The other thing I would say is there are no surprises in this movie. You know going in what it is going to be. You already know Palpatine is in the movie, and you find out that he was the driving force behind it all. So someone said this online, and after watching this movie, I definitely agree with the sentiment. The original trilogy makes you feel like it is the saga of Luke Skywalker, and then the prequels make you feel like the entire thing is the saga of Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, and then these new movies make you go, oh, no, the whole time it was the saga of Palpatine. So, in that sense, I see that, and I don't know if I totally agree with that, because, yes, it should never have been about Palpatine. Again, Abrams couldn't have told any other story. This is how it had to end, and it had a sense of finality. But I think Return of the Jedi had a sense of finality. This was definitely Return of the Jedi cranked up to 11. It was the showdown with the Emperor at the end reflected the showdown with Vader and Luke at the end of Jedi, with the Emperor sitting there, with the battle raging around them, seeing everything. Just now, the battle is that much bigger with all these Star Destroyers out there to go and take over the galaxy. That was another thing. Now that I'm thinking about it, a lot of the things that happened in this movie were in the extended universe in Heir to the Empire, and the secret plan that Palpatine had a fleet on the other side of the galaxy that no one knew about, and it rose up after his death to come and take over. And he basically was going, instead of it being a clone, he was going to put his body in his surprise, Rey is a Palpatine. She's his granddaughter. So, like, that was my concern going in. It was Palpatine going to feel like he was shoehorned in, and yes, I think he was. And then making Rey his granddaughter even more felt shoehorned. But I think with the backlash and with what Rian Johnson did to the trilogy, this was the only way to end it. This was the only way to make the fans happy. This is the only way to put an end cap on the story they started with The Force Awakens. So I guess in retrospect what I'm saying is it would have been better if they never went down this road. If they told a totally different story unrelated to the Skywalkers to begin with, which is what I think fans wanted. I think that's why everyone loves The Mandalorian, and I think it's why people love Rogue One. Because even though Rogue One is tangentially attached to it, none of the characters are Skywalker related or Palpatine related. They're their own characters. So the same thing with The Mandalorian. It's in the universe, but it's a completely different story. So that's what they should have done, I think, from the beginning. But obviously it's way too late for that. Again, it was good. It was really good. I enjoyed it. Was there fan service? Yes, there was fan service. The critics that are upset that there was too much fan service in it, you're ridiculous. You know, like, of course there's going to be. It's the only way to do these movies at this point. And it's the last one. So, of course, you've got to throw Han in. You've got to throw in a Force Ghost for Luke. And, of course, you have to throw Han in Kylo Ren's memories. So, yes, of course, again, it was good. It was Jedi turned up to 11. I really think so. And again, all these movies reflected the original trilogy. Force Awakens reflected A New Hope. Last Jedi, like it or not, reflected Empire Strikes Back, and this reflected Return of the Jedi. Slightly different story because between Kylo and Rey, and it's more of they're drawn to each other as opposed to opposing forces like Luke and Vader, but yeah, no, it's definitely a mirroring of the original trilogy. So, in the long run, did it work? Yes. Was it the best story they could have told? No. But it was good. And I think you'll enjoy it. If you're a Star Wars fan, I definitely think you'll enjoy it. On a final note, why did it take them 9 movies to finally give the Stormtroopers jetpacks? Like, seriously, it took you that long to go, oh, hey, if they fly around, it'd be kind of cool. But that's it. Yeah. If you enjoy Star Wars and you didn't like The Rise of Skywalker, I think you'll enjoy this. Shut your mind off. Don't worry about some of the details. And it's a fun Star Wars ride. It definitely is. And there's definite sense of finality. With the one problem, of course, we all heard the wonderful rant by Freddie Prinze Jr., who said everything's determined by the Force, and it's a sense of balance. And, the argument is if the good rise up, the dark side comes up to meet them, and vice versa. The light side won. And I don't know if you can call that balance or not. So, in that sense, it's still an open-ended story, but we'll see. So, that's my 2 cents.
This is John O'Grady, Superheroes Speak, and these are my first thoughts, a day and a half later, about Rise of the Skywalker. Oh, dear goddess, where did we go? Wait, I know exactly where we went wrong. We went wrong when they when Disney took over the franchise, basically, and then allowed basically a board decide the plot. The plot's all over the place. It has been since Force Awakens. It's too crazy. This is why Kevin Feige works so well with the Marvel movies, because even though they're forced to do certain things in certain movies that even the directors are not, don't want to do, at least there's one overarching plot line, one vision that all the movies just drive towards, and with very little deviation, which makes the plot following part of your brain happy because things kind of make sense. as much as they can in these fantasy movies. Whereas these last 3 Star Wars movies have basically just veered left, right, up, down, and crashed and burned so many times. And this last one, of course, Rise of the Skywalker, crashed and burned the hardest. Now, just to make sure you understand, I don't hate this movie. There were parts in it that I really, really liked. The problem was that those parts were surrounded by other parts that either made completely no sense, were like the most refined, pure essence of fan service, to the exclusion of all plot driving, all characterization, anything. They were just exclusively there for fan service, whether or not they made any sense at all in the movie, the broader universe, the storylines, how the characters were supposed to react. It was a plot line defined by committee. So, and a few of those people in the committee were Star Wars fans. And so we got some really, Rey jumping over and slicing the Kylo Ren's TIE fighter. Oh, please give me more of that. Are you kidding me? That's exactly what we really, really want to see. I mean, we want to see the limits of what real Jedi can do and see them, surpass those limits. But then you have, oh my God, the amount of retcon that was being done from the last movie, where, it basically was J.J. Abrams trying to quote unquote course correct from what the last movie was. This movie made me like the last movie. The Last Jedi actually was trying. I finally appreciate the fact that The Last Jedi was trying to do something different. I didn't like the characterization of Luke in that, but at least it was doing something different and interesting, and that would have resulted in things moving forward in the Star Wars universe in a way that would have launched 1,000 fan fictions and probably a lot of really interesting and cool movies and an evolution of the Jedi and Sith or at least Force users. I mean, they were going for full-on gray Jedi. And now, of course, apparently because there was quote-unquote backlash, that was too much. No, we can't do that. It's too bad. So basically, we wound up with an entire movie of fan service. It's horrible. It's absolutely. I'll put it this way. I got after the marathon, the first half an hour of the movie, you want a full 2 contiguous minutes of a scene? You want a full minute of contiguous scene? No, you don't need that. We need to sprint towards where we need things to be in order for the plot to get to where it needs to be. Character development, story development. Oh, screw that. We don't need that shit. We're just going to put, you're on this planet. Now you're on this planet. You're getting this. You're getting that. I mean, my God, it's like a speed run on Elder Scrolls. It is just ridiculous, it's like somebody ran through, Oblivion, the video game, and just like hit cancel on all of the dialogue that would make what was happening make sense. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I mean, right up to that point, right after, maybe in the middle of that, I finally realized I didn't care about the movie. I just don't care. I mean, yeah, there were some cool parts, and I liked those parts, but the rest of it was such a mess that it's like I don't care if somebody tells me they loved it. I don't even care if somebody tells me they hated everything about it. I don't care about the movie anymore, and if it wasn't for The Mandalorian, I would be sitting here saying I don't care about the franchise anymore, because the thing about these universes, these franchise universes, is that we're looking for something interesting, another place to be where we could put, where you can almost put yourself into people's shoes in there, and things are interesting, and there's directions to go, and interesting concepts to explore, and places to see, and characters to follow, and to watch struggle and rise above it all, and also sometimes fall and deal with loss and failure, and then see them keep trying because it's the right thing to do, and to watch really interesting villains, playing their roles. And this is none of that. This is so paint by the numbers that I found myself just not caring about any. I mean, there literally, some of these characters had no motivation at all. It was literally just as if the writer sat there and said, okay, we need to be here at this point in the movie, here at this point in the movie, here at this point, and they just drew straight lines between those points, and that was it. It was anyway. So I'm sure this will be fun. JD's we are going to have a field day with this when we talk about it together. So I mean, geez, of all the things, I mean, I've got this whole list here. We'll talk about it in depth, I'm sure, very soon. I do have to say that having to have played Fortnite to understand the continuity of this film, the plotline of this film, is a little off-putting, and making me picture the Emperor getting it on with a woman. That's also a huge strike against this movie. So in the end, I'm sure we'll go over this in the broader discussion, but I'm going to give this a solid 5. This is a movie that, even if it was playing while I was writing or doing laundry or something, and the movie was in the playing in the background, I might actually pick up the clicker and turn the channel to see if there was anything else interesting on, so that could play in the background. I'm not even that interested in ever seeing this movie again. So that's my initial thoughts. Sorry guys, but I know everybody's going to say, oh, but it's a Star Wars movie. That's the way it's supposed to. No. You can't use that as an excuse anymore. It's a Star Wars movie, but for Star Wars, or be it Star Trek, or Babylon 5, or Stargate, or any one of these larger universes, it has to be interesting. There has to be a plot line, and there has to be characterization. We have to feel the humanity of it. We have to feel the depth of it. And this had none of that. This was just paint by the numbers. Here's your fan service. Now here's more of your fan service. Now here's more of your fan service. Oh, you fans didn't like this in the last movie. Here's more of that. We'll fix this. We'll fix that. Luke's lightsaber blew up in the last movie. Yeah, we'll ignore that. It's not worth it anymore. So this is John signing off from Initial Thoughts. Solid 5. It was a Star Wars movie, and that's about all I can say about it.
So now that we're back, as you can see, JD and I both enjoyed the movie. John did not. Before we get into those details, Don, what did you think of the movie?
I thought the movie was a really good payoff, as well as it threw a lot of stuff in there that I'm glad it's showing that they're actually going to expand the universe, particularly with some real cool Sith stuff, go away from the Skywalker, and I just thought it did a really great job of doing that, all the while feeding us the nostalgia that I'm sure is, I know is a major complaint, but really just as a fan of the series in general, it had that, it expanded, it showed me how it was going to continue, and then it gave me a bunch of fan service. So I really did enjoy it, but I certainly do have complaints in areas. Absolutely, it was not enough to make me not love the movie.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, trying to think how to approach this, and I think, John.
Yeah.
My first question to you, after listening to your rant about the movie, one of the things you'd said is they had retcon things in this movie. And you mentioned that as something you didn't like?
Well, it's just, it feels like these last two movies were a tug of war.
My question is, what did they retcon?
Well, first off, there were little things like Luke's lightsaber was destroyed at the end of Last Jedi, and whoop, it's back.
Was it?
Yeah, it was destroyed at the end of Last Jedi. And then there's like this whole thing about, light, dark. They were going on a path that was taking us to a place where there was, gray Jedi, and this whole Jedi versus Sith thing was going to go away.
But according to the person who created the universe, there is no gray Jedi. There's either Jedi or Sith, and that's it. There's no in between.
There actually was in the extended universe, and canonically.
No. According to George Lucas, there is no such thing as a gray Jedi.
Does he own the franchise anymore?
Well, to be fair, if we're going to play that game, EU doesn't exist anymore either. So
true, but Ahsoka was headed for gray Jedi.
Well,
she was using both Sith and Jedi powers.
So to John's point, and this is again, I'm going to come in here and to your kind of defense. Darth Revan is canon. He done because the Star Wars MMO, as popular as it may be now, is canon. He's in there, and he is at the same time a Sith and a Jedi. And it did look like it was going to kind of go there. So I do agree with John on that point. Not that I disagree with you, Dave, but I see where he's going there, and that was a paradigm shift for me. That's all,
And there was also the whole thing that Rey is just somebody. She's not somebody. She's just somebody who happens to be good with the Force. And suddenly, like within the first 5 minutes of this film, the marathon, no. She's one of the she's one of the main families because only the main families can be good with the Force apparently. Even though the Force can pop out somebody like Anakin, in a virgin birth if it needs. But after that, every good Force user has to be from one of these two families.
Can I counter?
Please do.
I've always been of the assumption that a lot of the Siths were Jedis who were corrupted. I mean, like, let's just talk about only got like main level.
No, yeah, that's usually how it has to happen, right? I mean, they have to.
Yeah, and I thought that was what they were going with Rey, is that Rey's getting tempted. I believe 2 years ago I used the joke, the last temptation of Skywalker on the show. Like, I thought that's where they were going. I know the idea is everything was retconned from Last Jedi, but I mean, I don't feel that way. I just feel like it was just the story kept going. And that, like, when you're talking about and again, like I said several times in the show, these movies, the Star Wars movies are meant to be watched in trios. Like, you watch the three together as one. So why is it retcon and not a continuation onto?
But it's not a continuation because Rian Johnson was setting up, like, basically a new direction for the franchise, an interesting one, where there was actual, open ground, greenfield for new ideas and new directions to take the Force users and the general universe and within the first 10 minutes of this film, they basically said, "Oh no, forget all of that. We're going right back to what everybody knows."
I disagree with that. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so hold on. Back up the ship a little bit here for a second. Point number one: calling Rey not being an important character in the bloodlines, and then her being a Palpatine, calling that a retcon. I call bullshit on that.
It is bullshit.
In the original story, Darth Vader killed Anakin Skywalker, and that's one of the things that motivate Luke to become a Jedi.
Well,
and go ahead, what were you gonna say?
No, wait, who killed
Darth Vader?
That's what Obi-Wan tells him.
Yeah.
Yeah. From a certain point of view, that in itself was a
yes.
But let's all keep in mind the original sequel to Star Wars was Splinter of the Mind's Eye. He was never going to be Luke's father, and Luke and Leia were going to get together. So that was not a plan. People acting like, oh, this was a plan all along, and no, it was just a cool idea for a twist he had that, going into that movie and made it happen.
And it makes the movies better.
They've continued that. They had no plan for these. They basically we turned 180 degrees from Force Awakens to Last Jedi, and then another 180 degrees again from Last Jedi to Rise of Skywalker.
But isn't that what a story should do? Is like you take people on a journey where stuff does change.
Yeah, a journey, not a carnival ride.
No, but I disagree with that. Carnival rides are great. How often do you see a movie? It's like a roller coaster ride. Like that's a frequent comparison to a story, a book. It's a thrill ride. We've heard that all the time, and I think that people are like, oh, it just retcons Last Jedi. Last Jedi does a lot of stuff that not invalidates or retcons Force Awakens, but JJ's setting up some stuff that Rian Johnson had no interest in, and JJ comes back to do the things that he was interested in.
JJ came back because of the very same reason that you guys have been espousing to me, which is all these butt-hurt Star Wars fans got pissed off because he was taking it in a different direction, and what do we end up with? Another battle near a Death Star with Force lightning and the battle going on behind them and the Emperor and the Jedi. I mean, it was literally almost a carbon copy or a Force clone of Empire Strikes Back.
So what you're saying is the problem with this movie is it's a Star Wars movie.
Well, that's my problem. Okay, the whole point. So the whole point of a story is that you get interesting things happening, an interesting situation, interesting antagonists and protagonists, and it leads your imagination and gives your imagination a tableau onto which you can paint things. You get to watch the author or whatever take you through all these interesting things that happen, right? But there's got to be character development. There's got to be like development in the storyline. And all we're getting, how many Death Stars have we had? We've either had a Death Star or a setting on a Death Star 5 times.
We didn't. There was no Death Star.
And now what happens? Every single one of those
Why do you keep saying there was a Death Star in this movie? There was
I believe he's referring to the lasers that were on the thousands of.
Well, no, there was that. They were all Death Stars now, but they also, where'd they go? They went to the Death Star on what was it? Was it Endor? The crash part of Death Star. So again, another Death Star.
Which, according to science, Endor should be incinerated, but obviously that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Just got to give you kudos there, Dave, on the Splinter of the Mind's Eye reference. That officially makes this the coolest fucking Star Wars conversation on the internet, ladies and gentlemen. So that's all I'm going to say there, guys.
What I'm trying to say is I think it's incredibly fitting that the last Star Wars movie of this storyline relies on the Chewbacca defense for its popularity.
Which is?
It makes no sense.
All right.
Nothing makes sense.
I don't understand.
So you must like it.
No, that's not it at all. Like, you just gave an idea of what you think a story is. A story is a character on a journey. The character on his journey has obstacles.
Okay.
Be they nature, be they nerd, be they nature, be they human, be they something else. That is a story. That is the definition.
Let me come at this a different way, okay? In 9 movies, we've seen the same storyline 6 times, I think. The same battle. And like twice with the same emperor, and the same setting, and the same everything. At this point, I literally don't care where they're going after this because it's not going to be interesting. It's going to be the same thing. And that's the problem. There was no development over 9 movies. We wound up with the same thing because it was all fan service. That's all it was. And come on, you can't tell me that the first 30 minutes of this film made any sense. Like they laughed at two continuous minutes of a scene. There's like it felt like you were running a marathon. It felt like you were going through that tunnel. What is it? The Willy Wonka tunnel in Thor Ragnarok. You know, like you were strapped to a chair and you're just getting blown back by this storyline as they cut to scene, going to this world, getting the widget. I mean, it made no sense. It was literally a marathon to get to get to where J.J. Abrams wanted after having to deal with all the stuff that he didn't like from what's his name from Ryan Johnson. Yeah,
as I recall, stuff that you also did.
I didn't, but now I like it more now because this is the alternative.
Oh,
and the alternative is the same.
You can't do that. You can't sit there and say, I liked the other movie better because I don't like this one. No. You make up your mind. What don't you like?
The old goalpost movie.
This is new information coming in. I'm allowed to.
No, you are allowed to have your opinions. And I like the fact that you stuck to your guns on all these and not like them. So I respect that. I
respect that you like them. I don't care that you like them. That's fine. Yeah.
That's fine. I don't understand. Like, you're right. The first 30 minutes of this movie are a whirlwind, and I really dug that. Like, but I don't. And this isn't you having this criticism. These movies are meant to be like one big story. So the idea that you have repeating themes, repeating stories, like, especially when that is one of the themes of the story, is this stuff keeps happening. Like, this is intentional. Like, it's done on purpose. You cannot like the fact that it is done, but it's being done purposely.
Well, that's fine. I mean, and considering the current movie-going community, which is basically, all these studios are making more than enough money off of really unnecessary sequels look at Disney. They're literally remaking stuff like The Lion King and everything, shot for shot, just in CGI, and making worse than the originals, and they're making enough money off of them to continue doing that. So if that's the general attitude of the movie-going audiences now, then fine. I cannot like this because it doesn't go anywhere for me. It does. I admit that there is a certain thing to there's a certain thrill to seeing somebody win the same type of battle over and over and over again. But I get tired of seeing the same battle. I want to see growth. I want to see something new. There's so much more in this universe they could explore. And they didn't. They just went right back to the same people. It just, for me, it's not fulfilling. It's not interesting. And that's why I don't hate this movie. I am sad that Star Wars didn't go anywhere and basically, took basically this almost feels like it was a fan fiction that they put to film. But hey, I'm not angry. I'm not angry that you like it. I'm not upset about it. John, I just don't care.
John. Did you like the Iron Man movies?
Not the second one.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. You like the Iron Man movies and the Avenger movies. You realize they're the same story over and over again. Tony Stark, something in Tony Stark's past technology he built or like something he experimented comes back to haunt him, and he has to, take care of it over and over and over again.
But no.
While facing a guy who owns a company that's not quite as good as Tony Stark.
Yep. Same movie 3 times.
It is.
But all 3 Iron Man situations in different writing, and the relationship between Tony and Piper grew, and he had the relationship with the kid in the third one, and
the relationship between Kylo Ren and Rey grew.
Yeah.
And over all those movies, at the end when Tony sacrificed himself, the reason he sacrificed himself is because he grew, and all those movies, all the action, all that stuff that happened to him, that made a difference in how he thought and how he felt. And that was the culmination.
I don't think you realize something. I don't think you realize something. I think a lot of people have made this mistake. But I think if you look back on these 3 movies with a critical eye, this was Ben Solo's journey.
Yeah.
This was the story of Ben Solo.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I can see that.
It's the redemption of Ben Solo.
Well, God, he didn't need a redemption, but okay.
Well, he did with the way they started him out as.
Well, yeah, but his entire redemption was, oh, mommy, and then all of a sudden he's good again.
Just like Darth Vader's redemption was, I don't want to see this kid I've never met before, but he's my son, get shocked to death.
But they had scenes where he was hesitating on screen, and they were showing him. It wasn't that's good storytelling or good movie making. They were showing, not telling, right? But
they showed quite a few times. Quite a few times where Ben Solo was being pulled back into the light side, and he was fighting it.
Like when he killed Snoke in the second one.
The chemistry between him and Rey while fighting was better than the chemistry between Anakin and Padme.
Oh,
back in the
there's no comparison. I mean, Kylo likes him, you know.
That's what amazed me. Like, and that's what's gonna. I understand what you're saying, John. It is formulaic, and that's gonna be the impasse. But I mean, what did you think about that though? Adam Driver's acting and Daisy Ridley.
He's good, and I will tell you this: that scene with him and Han Solo,
my God,
that's awesome.
Harrison Ford in this movie.
Yeah, that scene got me. That was good. There are things about this movie that I like. Definitely.
Okay. And how about the fact that Leia actually was like a Jedi, like was even getting better than Luke? It looked like almost. Like, how you feel about that?
I mean, to quote another reviewer that I watched, we've never even seen her train a goldfish. What was she doing all of a sudden training a Jedi? She wasn't a master. No, nobody ever mentioned she was a master. And I know part of that was they had to get her in this movie. They had limited lines. They had limited film of her. So they did what they could with it. Some of that I can give it a pass. I mean, you know, but just.
And Kenobi wasn't a master either. He says that in the first movie that he thought he could train even though he wasn't ready. So I mean, this is like stuff that is firmly established in the canon. Like, I think that what you're choosing to ignore is this story is literally the saga of two families. It's the Skywalkers and Palpatine. And it literally it starts in the exact same point. So it only makes sense to bookend episode. Well, exactly. It bookends episode 1 and episode 9 are both bookended by these two families, and the one manipulating the other.
I'm sorry, but it's
I'm not saying
too much of a derivative, and this last movie was just...
It's part 9. It's part 9 of one story. I mean, like, it's not... These movies aren't like Lethal Weapons, where you get a different story. It's a continuation of the same story, intentionally, by the way.
Not a continuation, a carbon copy. That's the problem. I mean, what do we end up with? We ended up with Force Lightning, a battle going on behind her, and Rey, a Jedi, being tempted by the dark side. Again.
But that's the same. Those are the movies.
And it geeks me out that actually he was using Force Storm, which is a really cool dark side power. And I guess that's just where I'm just geeking the hell out. This movie had a ton of that.
That was nice. Answer me this, since you're more knowledgeable about it than I. Yeah. Why does he need anything else if he can take out an entire fleet himself?
Well, he didn't do that until he got both of their force powers, because, you know, they were the two that won. Then that kind of restored him. That took him off the machine, which, must be the reason why when they actually did kill him, which is what he wanted, that he didn't transfer over his soul. It must have had something to do with that machine.
Well,
go ahead.
How did he survive the Death Star blowing up around him?
Well, that's one of my complaints, is that, we saw his body go away, but to me, they could bring him back again, I think. Exegol, rhymes with testicle, didn't explode. It's still there. It maybe got battered.
Oh, you took Exegol. Exegol. But I mean, what did they like capture his consciousness in a jar and then make a clone of him, and it didn't work out so well? Because the look of his body, it's basically insinuated that he had somehow survived being thrown into the reactor. But it wasn't just getting thrown into the reactor. The entire Death Star blew up around him.
See, I think it was a complete new body, and what happens to Sith spirits when they die is they can literally just like roam the galaxy.
So none of that was explained, though. That's like extended, it's extended stuff that only you and me would know.
The two most favorite continuing stories of EU canon, which are no longer canon, are Heir to the Empire and Dark Empire.
Yeah. I think I read one of those, and I seem to remember something about there was a Sith Lord that like imposed his soul on somebody else to continue his line or something.
And Palpatine imposes his soul into a clone. That's in Dark Empire. In Heir to the Empire, Palpatine foresaw his death and put a giant fleet on the other side of the galaxy to come back. So,
essentially Abrams borrowed from both of those for this movie.
Well, yeah, cherry picking it big time. Sure.
Big time too. That's the Jason Solo arc under the EU.
Yeah, but there's the thing.
Same guy.
But there's the thing. Okay, so if you've read those books, you've got the background. But for somebody going into this without all that knowledge behind
you, don't need it.
It's suddenly there's a new Sith planet. Suddenly there's this entire fleet, and somehow they managed to man all the fleet. Which I'm wondering how many of those people on all those ships are like snow clones.
I share your question about that. I do.
And how are they going to get the fleet out? Because they show all these small ships going through the nebula to get to this place, and they're like weaving through very small spots. None of those Star Destroyers are small enough to get through there.
Well, they know where to go. You don't think the Sith have a different way to go than the secret special way?
Yeah, I know that. But still, it just
that's a Star Wars trope.
Semantic. That's just such a semantic.
Yeah, it's also a Star Wars trope. There's some kind of little thing that prevents the bad guys or is protecting the bad guys. The shield generator on the moon of Endor needing that tracking thing to get through the nebula. Like, it's been done over and over again in Star Wars.
There's another one. There's another trope too. The one antenna that would stop the entire fleet from taking off.
Right.
How can every one of those ships not be able to take off on their own?
How can you destroy a battle station by shooting a torpedo in one exhaust port? I mean, it's
well, they explained that in
Star Wars mumbo jumbo. Yeah.
It is. It's Doctor Who mumbo jumbo too. You reverse the polarity. Like, this is the stuff we accept as being sci-fi fantasy fans. If you try to explain something, sure, why not? Why does a stake in the heart kill a vampire? Because we said so. Why silver bullets, not gold bullets? Like, these are just, I mean, like, if we nitpick all what is tried to establish in the rules of science fiction fantasy, then you can pick apart any story. Like, if it speaks to you.
There's a difference between having tropes and using them to put together a new story and an interesting story, and the tropes being the story.
So I want Don and John, I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to rewatch Return of the Jedi, because if you can look at what the Emperor says in the throne room after watching The Rise of Skywalker, you can almost say he was predicting this movie.
I'm going to say I don't need to watch it because I know exactly where you're going with this, and I absolutely agree where he says, he's wanting Luke to strike me down with all your hatred. Do it.
Yes. And he keeps saying he foresaw all of this.
Yeah. No, the Emperor is PIMP. So, and I guess that's why, again, John, someone like me who absolutely loves the Palpatine character, loves the fact that he is basically created by himself this 9-episode story arc, and it all leads to here.
But there's like nothing about that until this movie. Like, if they had suggested it in Force Awakens, or installed a few Chekhov's guns through the last two movies, I would have been more than fine with it.
Yeah,
but it seems like they pulled it out of their ass just to put it in the last movie.
And they set it up really poorly in this one too, where they just throw it in the crawl saying Emperor Palpatine is back.
Oh, no. If you watched there was a thing that happened in Fortnite, some kind of event in Fortnite, you would have actually heard his transmission, his speech.
That's annoying.
That's kind of cool, actually. But that is annoying. Like, it didn't. I really feel like this is probably what JJ wanted to do the whole time, and Rian Johnson wasn't interested in that. Because you're right, Rian Johnson wanted to take the series in new directions, which I think should have been done for a non-sequeled Star Wars movie. I really believe that, but I still really like the movie. That being said, I really feel like they should have either not told us that Palpatine was coming back and just thrown it at us right away without that crawl, or set it up better. Like, I think these movies really lack from a showrunner, if you will, like one continuous voice guiding all three films. Because they do feel like, I think that this movie cleans up a lot of, not cleans up, but like works on a lot of what Rian Johnson set up. I know you don't, but I do. But I do think that if we had a little more uniformity, that this would have worked better. It is flawed. I still like it.
It's flawed, sure. And again, it's coming from I like The Last Jedi, but
Me too.
What I am pissed off about The Last Jedi, though, doing is we didn't get to have this progression into Palpatine. So in this movie, And the only reason it was done is because it was perceived that a lot of people are pissed off about Last Jedi. They want to cut back on making Star Wars movies. So J.J. Abrams literally had to say, who does everybody like? Palpatine, boom, there he is. But The Last Jedi, he's not mentioned. So it does rob this movie of, there should have been this mysterious event finding Palpatine. But as soon as we get the crawl, it's done. Boom, there's Emperor Palpatine.
And there should have been more stuff in PUBG rather than Fortnite.
Yeah, you're right about that. That's 100% a flaw with this movie, which makes me wonder who was attached to direct the third one at first. Does anybody remember?
No.
Did they ever announce it prior to?
It was. He got fired.
It wasn't Josh Trank. He was supposed to do a side story. Does anyone remember?
I hear John typing. He's looking it up.
To Google, good sir. To Google.
The World Wide Web.
Regardless of who X was, clearly they
Colin Trevorrow. Colin Trevorrow.
Okay. And he got fired for reasons I don't recall. So would he have just been given free reins to finish up this story however he damn well pleased? And this is why the Marvel movies get a lot of flack for for Kevin Feige running it like a TV show and bringing in directors to run it essentially like TV. But I mean, if he got to direct his movie, the chances of it ending like this are slim to none. So it's weird for other directors to be expected to pick up and continue on plot threads that others were wanting to do. Because I'm sure J.J. Abrams wanted to do more with the Knights of Ren and with Captain Phasma, yet the Knights of Ren are invisible from Last Jedi, and Captain Phasma is, she done in like Boba Fett, not really doing a whole lot.
Did you hear about the missing cutscene about Captain Phasma?
No. Enlighten me.
Instead of her just falling into a fiery pit, it had something to do with, was it Finn asking her why she helped them, and then she turned around and killed all of the soldiers around her because she couldn't let it get out that she had helped them.
That's kind of what they did with Hux in this one. Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, except Hux went out like a bitch.
Hux is a bitch, so it kind of works. Like,
yeah, I mean, I like the fact that that his reasoning was, no, I'm not siding with you. I just want him to fall. That sounds.
See, I thought that was flimsy.
No, I like that actually because I know people that petty.
Yeah, so do I.
So let's try to get a little constructive here.
Oh, you tell me this is unconstructed?
I thought we were doing deconstruction. Okay,
and I'm gonna start with John because John, you keep saying that there were parts of this movie you liked. So, what was your favorite part of the movie?
I think that might be with Han Solo, because I mean, for good story and basically ripping your heart out and showing it to you, the Han Solo talking to his son was pretty awesome. If you like action, Rey jumping up and cutting a panel out of the TIE fighter, that was freaking awesome. And the way they did it was the way the whole movie should have been done. It took a moment. It showed you her concentrating. It showed her getting ready. It amped up, the anticipation of you're sitting there going, no, she's not. She's really not, is she? Oh, she's so going to do that. And then, she does it. And it was pretty cool. For surprise, I'd say it was the Force Lightning supposedly taking out Chewbacca, which they missed a real opportunity there. They could have let Chewbacca die, and that would have, I know. And they've done it before. They killed Chewbacca off in the extended universe too.
They threw a moon at him.
Yeah, they threw a moon at him, which was appropriate. And it was written by J. Michael Straczynski, I think. I'm pretty sure.
That was Kevin Anderson.
Okay.
No, it wasn't. It was a popular. Maybe not Straczynski. It was somebody else that I know. Some really good. I think it was the guy who wrote Dritz Jordan, the Forgotten Realms series for Dungeons and Dragons.
R.A. Salvatore.
Yes, it was R.A. Salvatore. That's it. So yeah, they killed him before, but in this again, things have to progress, right? If she had killed him, that would have rocketed her character, and it would have shown that there are consequences, and and actions actually do have consequences. But
it's not a Star Wars movie.
I know. They brought it. Oh no, he was on a different ship. What different ship? We only ever saw one, and they showed us the whole entire area. Oh, we're going to erase C-3PO's mind. Oh, I would never have a backup on R2-D2. He's so, oopsies. Oh, but he had a backup. I mean, they're not like killing characters. They're never going to.
They will never kill Chewie or C-3PO or R2. That will never happen. Not in these movies, because it's the 3 characters that they can continue on into the movies and still give us a nostalgia hook.
Correct.
Right, because they're the only ones that won't age.
Correct.
So yeah, so there are parts of this that I like. I mean the Han Solo thing that tugged me. So that was good.
All right. So speaking of tugging,
what about you, Dave?
Hold on. Speaking of tugging, Don, how about you? What made you tug? I mean, what was your favorite part? I think I know, but go ahead.
Well, I might surprise you here, because I got to tell you, all the Sith stuff, I'm just geeking the hell out. So I don't know if I can say that's a favorite part of a movie. The fact that his throne room was the original concept throne for the original, the Death Star and all that, love it. But my favorite part has to be a lot like John there, is the Han Solo part, but really, but then when Leia came in and Kylo turns from Kylo to Ben, I was just like, it's on. Like, him and Rey are gonna, like, I was just, and it didn't happen the way I thought it would. I didn't really think they would kill him. But that this part where he finally turns, Leia just says that one word to him, Ben, and he turns, throws his lightsaber into the water, and I'm a huge fan of Adam Driver's acting in this movie. So that's going to be my favorite.
Okay, and then JD.
I agree with my esteemed co-host, the Harrison Ford. Boy, he steals that movie. That scene with the two of them is just two actors making choices and feeling the thing, and then doing a play on the last scene the two of them had together with the dialogue. Where in the first time it was, I don't know if I can do it, because he's talking about becoming a villain, and then it's, I don't know if I can do it, which is coming back. Like, did I really, really like that scene.
And as a father.
Yes. Oh, I mean,
in The Force Awakens, that was devastated that it happened that way.
Oh.
But then to see this, it's what you would do as a father. Like, boy, I understand you fucked up, like, but hey, I still love you. You can still come to Thanksgiving, So
you're still my son, even though you killed me. You're still my son, and I still love you. And that was just like, oh my God, beautiful,
that's powerful.
If you look at my heart, which has that hole in it you put, you'll see that you're still.
What I like about it too is he's not a Force ghost. He's literally Ben Solo's subconscious talking to him. He's literally talking with his guilt, and I like that they don't let him off the hook completely. He still died. He still is punished for his sins. But he, like Darth Vader before him, like the man that he idolized, he did. Like, he followed Vader's path, and eventually being redeemed a little bit. I think his redemption is a little bit stronger than Vader's. The nerd side of me really liked the fact that there was a nice little, in my mind, this is a nice little callback to Episode 3 when Rey uses the power to actually heal. Because it reminded me right away of Palpatine saying, you can do that, you can learn the power to heal, but not from a Jedi. So she actually is using Sith stuff. And I did think they did blend together what a Jedi and a Sith are.
Question, why is healing a Sith power?
Well, we established that.
It's called Dark Transfer, although they apparently changed it from them. But like in the Star Wars role-playing books and stuff, like literally Dark Transfer is a dark side power that takes your own life.
Right.
And so, and that was one of my questions. Is
unless you're a baby Yoda. Unless you're a baby Yoda.
Well,
it takes your life unless you're a baby Yoda.
I haven't watched this week, so no spoilers, please. But I'm still going. Okay. I really like that part where we did get the blurring lines between the Force lightning and her being a Palpatine, apparently using the power that he's tempted Anakin Skywalker with 2 generations prior to this. She's using it to actually heal someone. So in my mind, that is 180-degree moment, and that is showing character. And say what you want about how you don't like if that it's about a family. This 9-film trilogy is about family. Family is a very important undercurrent and very important motif of these films. And I think it's important that it stays through with it. I like that. I like those parts a lot.
No, the part where she healed the sandworm, I guess. or the sand snake, whatever it is. I mean, that was cool, and that's growth, and that's exactly the kind of stuff that I like.
She did it to Ben though. Like she did it on the same one, but she also did it to Ben Kenobi. Ben Solo. She heals Ben Solo.
Yeah, and that's cool. Didn't mind that at all.
Dave.
Oh, good.
I'm so glad we got to talk about Dark Transfer. That was something. Sorry.
So, I liked Harrison. I wasn't even shocked Harrison Ford came back to redo the scene that way because he's like, I'm dead. I don't want, I don't care. But that I did like that. But it's funny, like, and I've been thinking about it, and there's a lot of stuff that I loved about this movie. But believe it or not, my favorite scene, my favorite part, is the very end of the movie, when the person rides up and asks her name, because that's the whole point of the entire saga was summed up in that. There's the good and there's evil. There's the light side and the dark side, and which side you're on is a choice.
Okay, if that's the case, why did she say Skywalker instead of Palpatine? She could have done something with the name, made it something good, made her choice. Instead, she's continuing on I'm on the light side, so I'm going to change my last name.
Because they, instead of going into all of that, she just basically said that's her choice at the end by saying she's a Skywalker. That's the path she's choosing.
But she's a Palpatine. She could have easily said, I'm a Palpatine. Look, of all the good I've done.
Because it's the last shot of the movie and they're summing up the saga. That's why.
And
my God, that's a stupid nitpick.
Nobody wants to go to Christmas dinner with David Hitler.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
let's say
wait
she
a minute,
walks
hold
into a cantina.
on. You said that same name in your reaction
it was
thing.
Good. Oh, I did? I did in the reaction too?
Yes. Why David Hitler? That's what I want to know.
Okay, so there's a thing in our family where every time Andy asks, who's that guy? And he'll point at something I don't know the answer to, I'll just say, Dave. Like no matter what. If I don't have an answer to something, it's Dave.
You're making your
point. Oh, okay, good.
So that's how my brain goes.
Okay, so I'm everyone. Is that what I'm hearing?
You know what? I've been doing it since before I met you, my friend, so please don't hold that as
okay.
You're prescient is what you're saying.
What?
You're psychic. You could have told the future.
It's been rumored. It's been talked about in my family.
So as a writer, what's a better ending? Her saying Skywalker, summing up, she's choosing, good, or her going Palpatine, but let me take 10 minutes to explain that I'm going to turn that into a good thing. Like, seriously.
Just saying Palpatine would have indicated she was going to make it work and going to continue being who she was.
Yes,
she was always going to be who she was, right?
No, if she says I'm Rey Palpatine, they go, and they walk away. You say I'm Rey Skywalker, even if you don't know who a Skywalker is, like the audience gets the idea that that I've chosen, because Skywalker and Palpatine have certain connotations. Like I'm choosing the path of Skywalker. That's all it is. She didn't know she was Rey Palpatine either. She considered Leia more of her mother than anybody.
Right.
I was surprised at that choice because I thought this was supposed to be like the bookend to the Skywalker story. So it makes sense to me, but continuing on, it kind of doesn't make sense to me. So I guess I'm going to kind of be with John on this point here. I liked her new lightsaber. That was cool. When you say cool. End of the movie, that's really cool. Reminds me of Bastila Shan, which I think that's who Rey should have been. Rey should have been like a Shan ancestor, and that would have been cool, but nonetheless.
So I shared something with the other two. I don't know if you saw this or not, Don. Her lightsaber, the hilt of her lightsaber was actually a part of her staff.
I did not catch. I mean, to me it looked like it was double-ended, but okay. So she's got a light staff.
Yeah.
That's cool.
No. It was the end part. It was just the end part of her staff. She turned into her lightsaber.
I see.
That's so cool.
Yes. Like, that is another whole cool thing that ties into her character. That staff meant something to her.
No, yeah. I was real happy because I'm like, if she's this all-powerful, use force lightning, dark transfer, all these force powers, but she still hasn't built her own lightsaber. So believe me, I was really happy to see that at the end.
Yeah.
I was not a fan of her just being like, Luke and Leia, this is my weapons,
So, okay. Now the fun part. And you can only pick one. John, what was your least favorite part of the movie?
The least favorite part of it? Christ. Look at my notes here.
Do we need to come back?
Yeah, come back to me because,
John hated so much of this film.
I'm not saying I hate so much of it. I'm just trying to think. I'm actually trying to figure out which part I did hate because I keep telling you guys, because of the movies, I don't really care anymore. It's not that I hate it. I just don't care about it anymore.
No, you care because you wouldn't be this passionate about all of this.
The only reason I'm passionate is because keep going at me, man.
I really hate that they give. I really hate they told us Palpatine was coming back. I understand it's for good marketing. You want to get people excited. I hate that his name was on the crawl. I hate that we had to know that ahead of time because I think that if you're going to go completely out of left field like that with the comeback, because it was totally out of left field. They didn't do a great job setting it up. I think it would have been a better shock and awe moment that might have taken more time to settle in if they just threw it at you. And that, if we just start the movie off the way it is, with Kylo chasing it down and then he finds Palpatine, I'd have been like, oh my god! And that'd have been...
Yeah.
That was my least favorite part.
Yeah. No, that's true. And he could have been talking in Snoke's voice the whole time. And then once he got to him, reveal that it's Palpatine. Yes.
I got it.
Okay.
The dagger. It makes absolutely no sense.
Oh, yeah.
You've got this dagger. Why did the Emperor have somebody make a dagger? And the only place to use the dagger is that one spot on the coast where the dead dart, where the Death Star pieces lay. And that's that. I mean, that if there is a MacGuffin, if anything's a MacGuffin, that was a freaking MacGuffin, and it made absolutely no sense at all. They could have done anything. I mean, a tracking signal. A droid with directions in it, that new little droid maybe, but no, it's a dagger that just happens to have the shape of a certain place on the remains of the Death Star in the sea. I mean, come on.
That's a fantasy movie trope from way back. I mean, they've done that over and over again. Not just in Star Wars, but in
and you would
every
hope
fantasy
that audiences
movie.
are a little bit more intelligent these days, or a little bit more refined. But that was not a good argument. I know, but that kind of sums up the whole ridiculousness of some of the scenes in this movie. So that would be that'd be the one I disliked the most.
I like a good quest story. It was all based on a lot of this coincidentally happens to be here, but it was a little National Treasury. I kind of liked it, to be honest with you. I dug it.
Okay. How about you, Don? Least favorite thing?
Least favorite thing would be the love rectangle involving Finn. So I like Rey, but in Last Jedi, he liked the other character, and then he was back to liking Rey.
Rose.
And then, yeah.
I gotta follow up for that. Abrams revealed what Finn was trying to tell Rey wasn't that he loved her.
Oh yeah, he was going to tell her that he was force sensitive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
But yes. there's another problem with the movie.
Shouldn't have to learn that from the director opening after opening
exactly.
weekend.
Yeah. You can't put something in like that that's like he keeps mentioning throughout the entire movie and then have absolutely no payoff.
You're right. That's a flaw.
And in the fact that the space horses they were riding, why didn't they just tilt the Star Destroyer a little bit? I didn't get that.
Yeah.
I didn't get that whole part there. I really Finn and Poe did not develop in a way that I expected. They were more sniping at each other. That's what my least favorite.
And speaking of purposeless introductions, like the other stormtroopers that had basically gone rogue, the ones that Finn meets, right? So okay, yeah, great concept, awesome concept. You dump it into the movie and do nothing with it.
They help take down the tower.
Yeah,
and then also sets up. No, that also
sets up contrived. It's so contrived. Oh, by the way, here's a ready army for you. Come on.
But that also sets up the ending, where not everybody is terrified of the First Order. That there are people that are rebelling, because that's the whole thing. I mean, are people going to help? And yes, they do. That sets up that sets up the idea that there are people that are willing to fight against him.
Well,
it's the same as finding a tribe of Ewoks that are willing to help take down the shield generator.
Who are also little animals that could easily be dispatched.
I mean, yeah, no, but
Yeah,
seriously,
I mean-
that was something that could have been a really interesting plot point. That if they had done it early enough on in the movie, they could have done. I mean, it could have driven a lot of things that needed to happen for the ending. But instead, it was just like, oh, by the way, here's a bunch of traitors.
It sounds like your biggest complaint about the movie is that it wasn't 7 hours long.
No, doesn't it? Oh, come on, tell me it doesn't feel like this was like 2 movies and they cut it down to 1.
Oh, certainly it was.
The biggest problem with this movie is that it wasn't all JJ. Like, if this is where it was going, stuff should have been set up better. Like, they gave the filmmakers too much latitude instead of keeping all 3 of these movies a little bit more uniform. That is a flaw. I'll give you that 100%.
That I agree with.
Because there are disparities between the J.J. Abrams movie and the Rian Johnson movie. Like, it would have been better if it was all JJ, or at least producing JJ.
Yeah. So the only thing, and it pains me to say this, because there isn't anything I hated about this movie. There's anything that, like, I mean, are there little touches here and there, like waiting to reveal Palpatine? Yes. Like, I think that probably would have been better. But one of the things that bothered me about this movie, because my son pointed this out when we came out of the theater, and he had a point. The Carrie Fisher scenes didn't come off great all the time. She came off wooden because it was recycled footage, and she wasn't really reacting to what was going on into this storyline, because she didn't know what the storyline was. So, it worked, but unfortunately, because she passed away, it only worked as well as it could.
Yeah, and that you can almost give a pass. You can basically give a pass to that because Carrie Fisher is beloved, and this was supposed to be her swan song. This was supposed to be her movie, and I mean, they did what they could with it. But what can you do, right?
They got a lot more out of that than I thought was humanly possible, to be honest with you. All things considered.
Yeah. And then we even though they said they didn't want to do a CGI Carrie, we still got a CGI Carrie at the near the end of the movie.
Training, and when her and Luke were fighting,
right. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Like, there's a crazy irony in the fact that the 2 characters they killed earlier are the ones that are actually alive, and the one that's still alive in the movies is actually dead.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It was another weird about that is Maz Kanata had to narrate Leia's decision to die.
Yeah,
it's like suddenly you've got this narration. It's like, whoa, okay.
It's a little G.I. Joe. Hey, Duke's still alive.
Yeah. Well, except the opposite. Nope, Leia's dead.
And the other thing, this is the only thing when it comes to saying fan service that I do feel was a little ham-fisted, was Maz Kanata handing Chewie a medal.
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You don't know.
I liked it, right?
but
yeah, no, exactly. Chewie finally gets his medal. I thought that was great.
Yeah,
but he doesn't actually get it from Leia because she died.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang on to this until
They're all
I
dead,
die.
and he's alive.
You can take it for my cold day. I mean, come on. I mean,
you're such a pessimist.
That's what it was.
I mean, but seriously, it's exactly what happened, and it's yet again another indicator of the whole purpose of this movie. It was all fan service.
Yes, the purpose of the movie was to make the people that have drudged through 11 of these movies happy. What an evil, vile corporation Disney is.
That's the problem, though. It was
Making
all
people
fan
happy.
service. If fan service in place of silence and storytelling and pauses and growth, it was all just fan service.
I guess we have to disagree on the whole growth thing because the 3 of us clearly see something different. I can't argue with a lot of your points, but I saw a lot of growth in Rey. I saw a ton of growth in Ben Solo. Finn and Poe, there are issues with them as characters, but I think that's more because of the lack of continuity between the films. And they couldn't figure, and it's obvious that JJ and Rian Johnson had different ideas of what they should be.
Was Rian
Also,
Johnson going to
again-
put Finn and Poe together?
Also,
No.
again, Poe was supposed to die in Force Awakens, but because people like the character.
He was?
He's so handsome.
Yes. When they crash on the planet and Finn and Poe crash, he was supposed to be in that
okay.
What do you call it? TIE fighter.
Yeah, when it sunk.
Right, when it sunk.
See, that makes no sense to me because they had a comic book series right before they released Force Awakens where Poe's mom and dad help Luke Skywalker retrieve 2 Force trees. One he takes, the other one he gives them. They plant right outside his house. So, like, Poe is basically Force sensitive, which I'm sure everybody know or gets the gist of here. So that I did not know that. That is interesting that he was originally supposed to die. That seems like a lot of to do about nothing.
But again, this all comes from extraneous information that the moviegoer probably doesn't have.
Right.
So again, and we're going right back to, well, okay, so nobody dies, so there's never consequences. So how do you get character development when there's no consequences to anything?
Right, and I do think if Poe died, it would have forced through Finn's character development. Because
that's true. That is very true, and he would have saved all those people in the beginning of the second movie.
That's true.
Yes,
and maybe he would have acted better as Apocalypse since he wouldn't have the Star Wars to go back to.
Yeah, that was doomed from the get-go. So I guess the question is does Poe, because Poe screws up really big at the beginning of Last Jedi, does his character get redeemed sufficiently enough?
No.
I think so, because as reckless as his actions are, they did the job. Like, imagine if that dreadnought had also, been there. I don't know.
But he wasn't making any real tactical decisions. He was just, I don't know. Why am I in charge? Literally, everybody else around him should have been saying, why the hell are you in charge? What made you special? You were always going off on your own. You weren't a leader of people. You were a rogue operative. He could have gone off with his own team, but not be in charge of the entire rebel operation. He wasn't. His personality wasn't suited for it.
One could make that argument for Han Solo too. But do you think his actions in this film overcome the mistakes he makes in the previous film?
Not really.
Well, I know. What do you guys think?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good question, but I don't know. I don't think so.
Because
what did he do
in this?
He light sped Skep the Falcon and almost destroyed it.
He does save them, though. He does save them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he does do crucial stuff, but it's like, it is reckless stuff. And so it really doesn't entirely make sense to put him in leadership. I think I like the pilot side of him more than the leadership side of him, I guess, but he does save them.
Yeah, put him in front of put him in charge of his own squadron with Maverick. And you'd have a crack team that could do like wet ops, but otherwise he would drive the entire rebel operation right into the ground.
I don't think. Yeah, I agree. I don't really think he does anything. He was the one that knew the person that could take the memories out of 3PO.
Babu Freak.
Yeah. What a cool you mean marketing opportunity number 5.
And then you learn that he was a spice runner, before he joined the Resistance.
Yeah. Oh, just as an aside, I want you to continue what you're saying, but just as an aside, what's her name? Zuri. Zuri.
It is ridiculous she doesn't take her hat off. I have to say that. I'm sorry.
Well, it was Kerry Russell.
It's Kerry Russell.
You could tell by the hotness coming through it. So, I mean, so Zuri Bliss, we could have used a whole lot more of her. She was an interesting character right off the bat.
No argument. Yeah. I'm all for more Kerry Russell. She's good in limited stuff they do. I like that we only know it's Kerry Russell because you see her eyes, and she's got surprisingly distinctive eyes. Like, I would have liked more of her.
Well, I recognize the eyes from my backgrounds on my computer says.
Creepy.
Yeah, but does Poe... But, anyone could have known that character, Yeah. Yeah, does he... I don't know. I don't really think he does really redeem himself. There's no sacrifice moment for him in this movie.
Yeah, in fact, he wusses out at the end. He's making it a speech area going, I'm sorry I led you into this. So it's like, You know,
That's
not he'll be here any minute. It's he sucks.
It's Finn who's willing to sacrifice himself to take down the Star Destroyer.
I'll play devil's advocate because I'm not sure if I know the answers, but I'll play just so we have something to talk about. He is the one that gives the rallying speech and says, "We will do this. We can fight," and he was right. Like the galaxy did rally behind the beacon that is the Millennium Falcon, the most famous ship in the galaxy.
With Lando Calrissian as the pilot.
Correct, but Lando
Who said his
Calrissian.
flying days were over?
Yeah.
Hey, desperate times call for desperate measures. So, I get that. But I mean, Poe was the leader of it. Poe did lead them to their eventual victory. It was on a wing and a prayer. It really was. But I mean, is that, I don't know. Like I said, I see, even in Force Awakens, I felt that there was wasted potential in Poe. And then a Jedi, I thought that, he's I remember I made the argument in the show is he should be executed for mutiny. And then in this one, I'm still not 100% sure that everything about him is worth it.
Well, what about him getting that captain medal? Now, I agree. I don't know how Zori went from, I want to see your brain splatter to, hey, here, take this captain's medal that I worked so hard for.
So true.
Because he's cute. Because he's good looking.
Yeah, but she resisted him at the end, which was kind of a funny scene. But
not that good looking.
I kind of feel like I kind of feel like your feelings, JD, are his potential was to be the Han Solo of this franchise.
I think he's supposed to be.
But he never really becomes that character.
He didn't have the presence. I mean, it partially maybe the actor, but also the script didn't give him anything to really work with.
He never gets his moment. They don't
give him that. Right, he never gets his moment.
Han, in the first one, Han gets his moment where he shows back up and saves the day. Because Luke's boned until Han shows up in A New Hope, right? And then Han pays for that mistake multiple times. And I never feel like we get that from Poe. He never hits his triumph. Finn has a few, but Poe, not really.
I agree. He just got those scenes where he just does a real, he shoots down 8 TIE fighters, within 30 seconds. But beyond that, I have to agree, other than getting that captain's medal for some reason, somehow.
Well, I think she just gives it to him because she knows they're screwed without it. It's more of a, I don't like you, but you have good intentions and I can help you in this time, in here.
Hey, I'll take that. I love the movie, so I'll take any way to...
Yeah, it saves her own. In a roundabout way, she kind of saves her own ass by doing that.
Right, yeah, because there were Empire all over that planet.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. He had the potential to be the standout character, and they never deliver on it.
Yeah, and I think he's cast well. I think the performance is good. It just, I just don't think he has that moment.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, the script just never gave him anything to really work with. They painted him like a whiny bitch. I mean,
to be fair,
a very dangerous whiny bitch, apparently.
Luke Skywalker, also a dangerous whiny bitch.
Yeah, but he had the Force.
Right.
He did, but that does not negate his whiny bitchiness.
True. Very true.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny, too, because, it's weird, because, again, we talk about how this mirrors the original trilogy, and, it felt like they were setting Poe up to be the Han. Rey is the Luke / Leia character.
Finn,
she was a 2-for-1.
Well, Finn never really feels like anything of the previous movies.
He doesn't, because he's a stormtrooper. He's wielding a lightsaber.
Yeah.
One of the two of them had to go kind of not develop well, and apparently they chose Poe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know if it's good or not. Although Finn did have great hair in this movie. I mean, he did. His hair looked. It was mesmerizing the first 30 minutes of the movie. It kept showing him. Maybe it's because I was in the third row at an IMAX, but I kept going, man, his hair looks awesome.
Okay.
I'm alone in this? All right, fine. I'm alone in this.
I don't know. I didn't notice Finn's hair.
It looked great. Look back at these pictures. I got responses on my Twitter when I put that up that people said, yes, he did have good hair.
Okay.
So disappointed in you.
So the Oscar goes to the hairstylist.
That is an Oscar.
Yes.
You know what? Speaking of Oscars, tell me that Chewie's response when he learned that Leia died was not amazing acting.
It really is.
Through a suit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's hard to do. Is you want to rely as an actor, you rely on facial expressions like this. So he's all in pantomime, and it never comes off corny. Like remember Darth Vader when the Padme death? Yeah, it looked terrible. But when Chewie does it, it comes off so much more believable. That was a good scene.
And who plays Chewbacca in this?
It's the guy who
the
did
new
it.
dude.
Yeah, it's the new dude.
Yeah.
Is it me or does the new Chewie's head look different too than the old Chewie? Like his face looks a little different.
Looks a little bit less like the Halloween store leftovers and more like real animatronics, maybe?
Maybe. I don't know. It just looks different. Not worse, not better, just different.
Nothing jumped out at me.
Maybe I'm alone.
I don't know. So.
Juanis Sutamo?
That must be the new guy.
Okay.
yeah, he's a basketball player, or former basketball player.
That makes sense.
Which makes perfect sense.
Yeah. He's 6'11".
Goddamn.
Wow.
That's a big dude.
6'11" and a half, so almost 7 feet.
If you're 6'11" and a half, you could just tell
you should
you're 7 feet
exactly.
tall. Like that's not gonna fool anyone. Like it's not. No one's gonna call you out on that.
No, I'm 5'11" and a half. I say 6 foot all the time. No one's ever called me out on it.
Well, I am right now. You're no 6 foot.
5'9". I'm stuck, and I can't even lie about it.
Hey, I'm 5'8". Try getting a date when you're 5'8".
You know my pain. I'm lucky I got married. She's forgiving.
Please,
So anyway.
My wife somehow tolerates me sleeping with a Voltron pillow. Let me tell you.
That's awesome, by the way.
Well, seeing as my first wife left me for our World of Warcraft Guildmaster, I'm certainly counting myself lucky.
Oh, wait, see, we've taken a good turn on the show.
So, John, I understand an unexplainable hatred of things, as that's now WoW, even though I used to enjoy it.
Oh, no, I get it. My last ex cheated on me, too, so yeah.
There we go.
Anyway.
Listen, it's a mystery I've somehow procreated, okay, guys? But here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Star Wars, it's a family story.
It's a family picture.
So that reminds me of the conversation that I engaged with on Dave's Facebook page today.
About
what? I was just arguing about the movies and the Freddie. Dave put up the Freddie Prinze defense, is what I'm going to call that for the rest of the time, of Star Wars, and I just amazed the vitriol this inspires in people and how much people hate these movies.
See, again, I don't hate them.
Not you. I'm not talking about you. John, I'm not talking about you. I'm really talking about a guy who was upset that they weren't following Earth Navy commands.
Wait,
yeah, what? That was crazy.
What?
Oh, the first sergeant. Yeah.
So that was Chris Herbert or Hebert from what's the name of that book? Laserman. And I was shocked because he says he liked Rise of Skywalker, but he hated The Last Jedi.
There's no middle ground on that movie. You love it or hate it. There's no in between.
And John at least has a point. He's basically saying this is formulaic. They're using old tropes.
Yeah.
Not enough development. That's why I don't like it. I understand that.
Perfectly understandable.
I'm just so much a fanboy, and I'm very susceptible to the payoff here that I'm ignoring all that. But yeah, the whole they're not following U.S. naval procedures. That was fun to read on my break today on Facebook.
We were moving mats at practice today, and I didn't want to do it, so I just debated on Facebook rather than working.
Yes, you had a lot of fun.
I had a blast. I haven't gotten a good troll session in quite some time.
Yeah, but again, I still stand by that rant. I mean, he summed it up perfectly. It's like, let's be honest, it's movies for kids, and it's telling a basic story of good versus evil, and yeah, it repeats tropes, but a lot of series do that. They repeat themes over and over again. And, a lot of people just seem to be upset because it didn't develop the way they wanted it to develop. But, I don't understand why you think you have a right to dictate another person's art.
Is it a case, though, of that, or it's just you can never, when you expectations are so much based on something you loved as a child, they don't live up to what you perceive them to be or what you want them in your head? I don't fault people for that, but I wonder if that's why I try to go in totally cold to these movies. I want to have little expectations,
Right.
And I think that's what's best because I think everything is just way overhyped. And then when you go and you you just don't get what you expect. We listen to podcasts that talk about it, TV shows, and then when it gets there, you're like, oh.
Because I felt like that in Phantom Menace. And I was younger, like I was a teenager at the time, but I mean, like I remember I built it up so much that nothing could have possibly, I see this now, but nothing could possibly have lived up to what I thought it could be in my mind. Like that movie, the movie I wanted it to be couldn't exist,
Oh, and I love that point that you made, and is that now all of a sudden people who hated the prequels are, saying they love them.
Yes, for 10 years we heard nothing but Lucas has lost it. They should give it to someone else. His ideas are old and garbage. And now it's like, man, some guys are like, oh, they should just let George Lucas make a Star Wars movie. That's like, well, he made 6.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard is, people now, because I remember that vividly, people hated George.
In fact, I think someone said in their personal reaction to the movie that it got ruined because Disney took over from Lucas.
Yeah, right. George Lucas didn't direct the original trilogy. I mean, he was obviously heavy into it, but he didn't direct them. And then so what did he do? They've been enhanced 10 times now. And people hated him for it. So that's a short memory by people who are claiming that, or they want that.
Even the first movie is saved in the editing room. His wife saved the first movie.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Yeah.
That was John who said that, by the way.
Yeah, but yes.
Which also made me kind of question, the time you spent in Disney when you worked down there. It made me wonder,
I see.
Did the mouse do something to you, John?
Did you get mouse traited?
We did get a tour of the underground catacombs, I should say. And,
oh boy!
And I do have some missing time, so I don't know.
Did you have a Clockwork
Was
Orange
the mouse
experience?
inappropriate?
This was in the 90s, so probably.
Saying, did you have a Clockwork Orange experience with watching Steamboat Willie over and over again?
I was thinking more along the lines of opening a door and seeing a head in a jar, but okay.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So, did we beat this movie to death enough?
I think we have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I'm angry that they called them Sith. They didn't call them Sith holocrons. Let's see.
They didn't mention holocron? I thought they said...
No, they call them Sith navigators.
Oh, jeez. You even got that right in the was it the Rebels cartoon?
Yeah, exactly, which is where I thought they were going with it.
That's some hardcore nerd gripe right there.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Let's see. Babu Freak got more of a pop than Han Solo or Chewbacca being alive again.
Nice.
Not sure what's up with that. I don't know. I swear, both viewings I went, everybody loved this character. And I don't dislike him, but I don't get it. Okay, that covers everything.
I cried like 5 times.
All right, so JD hates this part, but we're gonna go around real quick. Final thoughts. Give it a rating. 1 out of 10 capes, and we'll start with our esteemed guest.
Okay, well, listen, I'm going to tell you, fanboying it up here. Just full disclosure, 9 capes out of 10. The universe developed in a way that excites me, as well as the characters, and the acting was great. So there are certainly flaws, but I'm still giving it 9 capes out of 10.
Okay, JD.
I'll go 8.5 capes out of 10. I love this movie. It's not perfect. A perfect movie would be 10. The thing with Palpatine bugs me, and the lack of the Poe thing, now that I'm thinking about it in retrospect, is bugging me a little bit. But not enough that I'm not going to see it 3 more times in the theater. I love this movie. 8.5 out of 10.
Cool. John.
I'm just not interested anymore.
What is a negative cape? Is it a scar?
No, it's not. No, not negative. I'll give it a 5. I'm going to give it a 5. It's barely something that if I were folding laundry, I'd play in the background, because I literally have no interest in seeing this ever again. It's just because there isn't enough there for me to be mildly interested in the background. So I'll give it a 5.
Okay.
I'm sorry this is how it ended. Maybe they'll give us something new now that they've gotten this out of their system. I'd love to see them, expound into the realms of the Gray Jedi or the wider universe or something. But that's all I can say about it. I don't hate it, but they've beaten this into the ground, and I have no real interest in it anymore.
Okay. Now that you've bummed everyone out, I'm gonna say this. Okay. In somewhat of defense of John and agreeing, I think everyone kind of said this. The trilogy suffered from not having an overall vision, not necessarily a single director, but one person who was kind of calling the shots on this and saying, the stuff that JJ set up, we're going to continue those threads throughout the movie. So we're leading to something that makes sense. Whereas Rian Johnson did take it and he wanted to subvert the expectations. So he totally flipped everything around. And then, yes, it felt rushed at the beginning of this movie because now JJ's flipping everything back to what his vision was for the story. So I agree with that aspect of it. But given that this is the only movie he could have made, this is the only movie that could have been made at this point. It had to be this movie. It had to be something like Palpatine. It had to appease the fans, and wrap up, because that's what he was promising. He was wrapping up the entire saga. So this had to be how they wrapped it up. It's the only way it all tied together and made sense. So I think in that way it was brilliant. I think he did an excellent job. I don't think any other director could have pulled it off the way he did. So given that, I am going to echo Don's score. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 because it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to probably try to take my my daughter or my son-in-law to go see it on Christmas. And yeah, if you haven't seen it already, you better run out and go see it. And otherwise, I don't know why you haven't seen it unless you're like John and you're just bitter and old.
If you listen to this show, chances are you've already seen this movie.
Yes, I agree. So there you go. We did it, guys. We had said we weren't going to do any more for the year, but John was so angry at this movie that he claims he doesn't.
I'm not angry.
That he doesn't care about. That he claims he doesn't care about. That he called me up while exercising on his treadmill and said, "We've got to get together and record."
Because I was interested to hear what JD's side of things would be.
No, that makes me happy.
You're lying to yourself. You care. You just don't want to admit it.
I'm not. That was my literal reason.
So
I'm very happy that you care about my emotions that much, that you wanted to hear my thoughts. Thanks, man.
Well, I did until you said what you said about the movie.
But you cared enough to know why.
Okay, so those who are listening, who are fans of the show, if you believe John really doesn't care anymore, let us know on Twitter at Superhero Speak. If you think he really cares and he's just lying to hide his emotional scars, let us know that as well.
There are a lot of emotional scars to deal with, trust me.
And on that note, boys and girls, thanks for listening, and we hope you're having a wonderful holiday season and you have a healthy, happy new year. And this time, I really mean it. We'll see you in 2020. So until next time, thanks for listening, and don't let your cape get caught in the door.